Radha, tell us a little bit about why is clean cook stove such an important issue for development?
Clean cook stoves are critical for a number of different reasons. There are about 3 billion people, so that's almost half the world's population, that is dependent on polluting, inefficient stoves for their meals every day for cooking. And as a result, when you've got inefficient stoves, you've got often women and young girls who are out there for 4 to 6 hours a day trying to collect their fuel, any form of wood, biomass, etc., to fuel their stoves. And often that puts them in danger, in terms of the trips that they take out 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, to go collect their fuel. The other issue for why it's important is that you've got almost 2 million people that die annually as a result of exposure to cook stove smoke. So these are, I know, big numbers, 3 billion, 2 million, etc. This is substantially larger, actually, than those who die from HIV, malaria, and TB. And it's actually something that not that many people know of. So having something that's cleaner for their health, having something that's more fuel efficient that impacts their wallets, and therefore they can use that funding to be able to support their kids through school or do something else, would be highly beneficial for the population at the base of the pyramid. So that's why the Global Alliance for Clean Cookstoves was formed, and we're really looking at a market-based approach. So it's not about distributing stoves and giving them away free of charge. It's developing a market for clean cookstoves around the world, and our goal is for 100 million households to adopt clean cooking solutions, so stoves and fuels, by the year 2020.
Tell me about the role of the State Department and how they help put this together, this alliance together.
Sure. No, it's a significant role. Secretary of State Clinton launched the alliance September 2010, and the U.S. government, all 11 agencies, are involved in supporting clean cookstoves around the world. And you've got a variety of ways, from research being conducted at NIH to OPIC providing financing for stove businesses to be able to scale up their operations, to the Department of Energy thinking about new technologies and fuels and how that can really help spur the adoption of cook stoves, in addition to USAID, etc. We often think of this as an issue that's just in the developing world, but it's not. Given climate change, etc., all of this impacts us right in our backyards as well.
Tell me about the role of AID.
AID is supporting us in a number of different ways. When you look at adoption of clean cook stoves, you're really looking at the issue of behavior change as well. How do people understand and become aware of the need for clean cook stoves, and how do they transition from what they're using, and it could be centuries of using the same kind of stove, that meets certain cooking patterns and cultural habits. How do you transition people, even though from, in their minds they may know this is the right thing to do, but to actually adopt it and adopt it in a sustainable way. So that's one way. There's several AID projects in different countries that look at that, look at behavior change and the issue of adoption. On the other end of the spectrum, AID is also being very innovative in terms of looking at scaling up operations and providing financing to encourage the growth of different stove businesses out there. There are many organizations that have a good design for a stove, because there's not one size fits all. There are multiple different stoves. And so they may have a good design, but they may not be great at marketing or reaching the consumer. And so helping build the capacity of some of these organizations so that they can scale up the production of the stoves and actually get it to those who need it is yet another example of how AID is supporting.
Talk a little bit about the private sector approach to this.
It isn't by coincidence that we came to the conclusion that a market-based approach is the right approach to take this time. People say there's a graveyard of stoves out there around the world, because they've been distributed with good intention, but either not enough attention has been placed on the awareness or the training for usage. It does take some, depending on the kind of stove you have, if you're transitioning from a 3-stone fire, you need to understand how to operate the stove, how to maintain the stove, etc. So what we're doing now is saying that people need to value the stove. They need to be able to pay, whatever they can, to be able to then say, this is of value to me. I want to be able to use it. I want to be able to preserve it, maintain it, etc.
Talk about the importance of China joining the partnership.
Significant. China joining, we've got now 370 different types of partners who've joined the alliance. Of that, there are 34 countries, so that's a split between donor governments as well as implementing countries, if you will. China is in a very unique circumstance because they are both, a partner with tremendous best practices in this sector already. They've had the largest national cook stove program, of any country. They have significant manufacturing capacity. There are lots of lessons that can be learned from China. So not only is China a country in which we can continue to implement in, but we can also take a lot of the best practices and research that the Chinese are engaged in collaborating with us on to be able to support the needs of those around the world as well.
Thanks a lot, Radha.
You're very welcome.